Hello and welcome back to Shelf Centered. This is Bryce, and thank you so much for stopping by. As always, I really appreciate it if you like and subscribe. It helps the channel a ton. But let's just jump right into my review for Deadhouse Gates, spoiler free as usual. All right, what can be said about Deadhouse Gates that hasn't already been said? I will probably just repeat a lot of what has been said, but here's my take on it. Frankly, and just right up front, this is for me one of the top, let's say, it's at least top 5, but maybe arguably the top fantasy book ever written. That's what I'm going to say right now. I believe it. Having just read it for the third time, it just stands out. It is so epic, so tragic, so many things that I'd never seen before in a book. And then so hilarious at the same time. That really stuck out to me this time on this reading. So I just can't get enough of Malazan. You know it already if you've even checked out the channel more than once or twice. But Deadhouse Gates is easily at the top. So it starts out, we've got, and we've already kind of talked a little bit, check out my other review for Gardens of the Moon, where I try to explain a little bit about the kind of basic plot of Gardens of the Moon. Well, we kind of take up from there, except we only follow a couple characters from Gardens of the Moon. As you may have been told, Malazan is not your typical fantasy book series. What happens is Erickson will jump from continent to continent, easy peasy, and he'll focus on completely different sets of characters. You may get a couple, like in this book, where there's a healthy amount of characters that we've already known. That is actually not extremely common in these first 5 books, which is really frustrating to some people. But he will take whole different groups of people and focus on them. And so you have totally new characters and then a totally new continent that you're trying to get used to. And it can be very frustrating for people. I get that. Don't think that I don't, but at the same time, it's still it remains and somehow is one of the best fantasy books ever written. So in Deadhouse Gates, we were at Genebacus for Gardens of the Moon. Now we've switched. We're at a different continent in 7 cities because of the 7 holy cities. But what's happening? This is another continent that the Malazan people, the Malazan Empire has taken over, but the people are revolting. It is the apocalypse. It's Drishna. It's the whirlwind, whatever you want to call it. And again, we can get into all that, but I love how many names something can have. But because that's pretty historically accurate, things are going to have more than one name. But anyway, it's the uprising. The uprising is happening on 7 cities, and so despite what is going along from Gardens of the Moon, which actually kind of takes up in Memories of Ice, book 3 in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. This is book 2, Deadhouse Gates, where a contingent of those Malazans took off from Genebacus. We're talking Callum Mekar, Fiddler, then we've got Crocus, now Cutter, and then an Absolar who was Sari, right? So those 4, they've gone to 7 cities to essentially take Sari or Absolar back home. But then Callum's got his own plan here. Fiddler's got his own as well. Fiddler's always doing his own thing, I feel like. But so you have this huge uprising, but the main focus of this book is the chain of dogs, and you get that right away. So from the maps themselves, it even shows the chain of dogs. So you're already known. He lets you know right away. Here's a big focus here, the chain of dogs. But what happens is during this uprising, and again, I'm going to very simply summarize this. The Malazans have to kind of pull out. Right, and so they pull out not only the Marines, but also and military, but also all the nobles, all the people that they can who are Malazan, because they're just getting slaughtered. This is the uprising where nobody likes the Malazans, and they're getting pulled out. So they get pulled out. One of the problems is that where do they go from here? So they get pulled out of these cities, and you've got this leader, this enigmatic. If you can call him that, just get this powerful leader that it doesn't say a lot, but he's trustworthy, and he's the Wiccan Coltane. He's just a legend, and he becomes so much more of a legend in this book. But so we follow him, but through the eyes of the historian. I always called him Duiker when I was reading it, but the audiobook calls it Diker. So wherever you stand on that, I call him Diker now just because that's what I got used to on the audio. But with Diker the historian, and he's kind of part of this, right? And has access to the leadership meetings, and is always around, except when he wasn't. But anyway, we can go into that. So that's generally kind of where we're talking, and you just see it's again, I don't think it's much of a spoiler. I've said this before. It's the Malazan Book of the Fallen, so this is not a happy story by any means. And so we've got this struggle to pull all of these people essentially across the continent that Coltane's got to do. But you got the sappers, who are the military engineers, and they're always good. They're always there for a good time, but also really clever. And you've got the nobles who are fighting you. So it's these non-military personnel who can't even fight, but they're fighting you all along the way while you're getting attacked from every single side. You've got, and then this is the real, again, Erickson throws all of this, so many things at you. So then, that story is all going on, right? And so you got this huge, huge story going on. At the same time, you start out, and this is with Felison Perrin. This is Ganos Perrin's sister. And they've also got another sister named Tavor, and we'll get to know her a little bit, not too much in this one. But Felison Perrin has been sold into slavery and has to go work at the Odoterral mines. And this is where they get that special magic deadening metal, right? And this is what Malazan Empire has that's very effective against magic users. So they've got this mines that they're constantly mining it out. And so Felison Perrin is a divisive character, to say the least. I did not like her my first time through this. I had to learn to like her, and but now she's one of my favorites. She's just one of those characters that who's easy to hate at first, but once you kind of see, look how young she is. Look what she's actually doing. Look at some of it is based in not just complete ego, but she's an interesting character, to say the least. And so that's really where I come from, is, once you've kind of gotten over some of the shocking elements of her behavior and those around her, you kind of start to understand her a little bit more. But she, anyway, with all the uprising, is kind of caught up in it with two other individuals that are there at the mines with her, and actually had come over from the mainland Malazan Empire, Quantali. So you've got this whole thing, you've got multiple different stories going on. On top of this, on this continent of 7 cities, you've got because there's always power draws power, convergence. So now on top of there being this whirlwind, this huge event happening that's causing this uprising, you've also got this thing called the Path of the Hand, and this is it's these shapeshifters. And so there's a levels again of kind of ascendancy of shapeshifters, and they're looking for it to try to ascend. But you've got Soul Taken, which is essentially a 1-to-1. Like one person can change into, for instance, a dragon. We saw in Gardens of the Moon that certain individuals can change themselves into dragon. Not the least of which is Andromander Rake, right? You've got also this thing called a diverse, which is a person who can change themselves then into multiple different things. So you've got like Rilandrus, who can change into multiple different rats. You've got all kinds of things. So they're on this path to essentially try to get their own ascendancy. We meet along the way Apo and Icarium. Icarium, we've gotten some hints as to who the heck. In Gardens, you kind of have a couple hints about Icarium. He's like this legendary figure. But again, we're talking this world where people can live for hundreds of thousands of years. You can become a legend and still be around which is just still mind-boggling to me. But Ikariam and Mappo, they're this duo wandering around trying to figure out Ikariam's past. These are one of the, I think the more I read this, the more I am touched by this story. I was in tears this time. I don't often go to tears. I can be very sad in a book, but to just be in tears with their relationship, that's just impressive and amazing. And again, anyone that says that Erikson can't write characters, I'm like, how was I feeling that kind of an emotion with these characters I love? But that's one of those that it's this interesting dynamic where you have, what if someone can essentially become a genocidal maniac, but only some of the time, only when they're not of the right mind, and yet the rest of the time they're this meek, kind, passionate individual that you love and that you've become best friends with. And that is just, that's what I love about fantasy. One of these things that just makes you think. I went into economics on my undergrad because I loved kind of challenging the way we kind of think, the way that you think, here's how the world works, and then you kind of look into it and it's like, actually this happened because of other reasons. Read for Economics, it's a great book. All kinds of those kind of things where here's the common wisdom, commonly held wisdom, and then here's the actual truth of it. It's completely different. I love that, but I love just thinking hard on certain subjects, even though I'm not to the level of certain legends like A.P. Canavan and Philip Chase, but who have great channels you should definitely check out if you want Malazan. And they may even pronounce that right. I cannot tell you enough how powerful that, especially like that duo, and again, just making you think about what would you do for a friend? What would you give up? Would you give up danger, the potential danger to other people, which is your original kind of goal? Anyway, I cannot say enough good things about this book. I printed out some quotes. One of my, I think I said this time was really what stood out to me is the humor in this book. Iskril Pust especially. Iskril Pust is one of my favorite characters. Just one of these crazy zany characters that only Erikson can come up with, and I guess and Ian Cameron Esmond too, who's just as much a part of creating the Malazan world as Erikson is, but just these characters like Krupp or Kruppa or whatever you want to call him from Gardens of the Moon. You just got this. People hate Krupp. I know, I get it. I love him. I didn't like him at first, I'll admit that. But I love him now. One of my favorites. And he was one of my favorites on the first read through, not the first book though. Iskril Pust, just, he's a high priest of shadow. And I want to read some quotes because he's just hilarious to me. And he's talking with, his lord, the high priest that he is for. It's Shadow Throne. He goes, Shadow Throne, my worthy lord of Shadow is thinking. Yes, thinking furiously. Such is the vastness of his genius that he can outwit even himself. It's just crazy. Iskril Pust is a character that you never know how to take. He thinks his thoughts out loud, and you don't know if he's doing that to mess with anyone, or I'm pretty sure he's not though. But he thinks he is, and he'll even think the thoughts where he's trying to trick people out in front of them, and but then he still acts as if he hasn't. And it's just constantly hilarious. He runs into Mappo Runt. That's the companion to Ikariam, and Mappo goes, "Where's the library?" And Iskril Pust says, "Turn right, proceed 34 paces, turn right again, 12 paces, then through door on the right, 35 paces, through archway on right, another 11 paces, turn right one last time, 15 paces, enter the door on the right." Mappo stared at Iskril Pust. The high priest shifted nervously. "Or," the troll said, eyes narrowed, "turn left 19 paces? Aye," Iskril muttered. It's so stupid. Anyway, it's just so funny to me. Iskril Pust just over and over again, and there's so many more. But he's just so funny constantly. And again, and he probably isn't even my favorite hilarious character in the whole series. Because Tehol and Bug we haven't even gotten to yet. But anyway, other just quotes from Erikson that they're just really good quotes. Anyway, Couple on history. Ah, Fist. It's the curse of history that those who should read them never do. The lesson of history is that no one learns. Such a fact, right? What makes a Malazan soldier so dangerous? They're allowed to think. And then one of those that where Erikson just gets you in the gut, and he does this every single book, every time, where he's a thinker. He really has thought through his philosophy, just some of these lines anyway catch you. And this is one you may have heard before, but it goes, children are dying. Lowell nodded. That's a succinct summary of humankind, I'd say. Who needs tomes and volumes of history? Children are dying. The injustices of the world hide in those 3 words. It does, absolutely. And we've seen that recently, and it's just so tragic. Anyway, I cannot say enough good things about Deadhouse Gates. This is literally, it's one of the best fantasy books ever written. I said it like 8 times in this video. I still will claim it. It is amazing. It's insane. You feel like you are there on the ground level, and the tragedy in this is so frustrating and so just maddening, but the events, the convergence in this is amazing. As always, Erikson will pack at least 100 to 200 pages worth of insane ending for you where you just cannot stop reading. Even if you've been confused the whole time, you're still going to love it. That's what happened to me, at least. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Let me know your thoughts below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It always helps the channel out. And we'll catch you next time. Bye.